it on. Want some, get some. Can I get a hell yeah? Yes, I am a pirate. You have to go with the pirates because, of course, they have cannons and everything. It's a pirate's life for me. Be proud of who you are and what you are. You're pirate.
It is a first down. Pirates.
Because when you're at East Carolina, you go for it every time. Or you don't coach at East Carolina, you don't come to East Carolina, you don't play at East Carolina with a weak heart. Write it.
I think I've ever been in a building as loud as that was. It was deafening in there.
You live with Omaha? I can promise you that. And a crumple all night long in Eastern North Carolina.
You're watching The Sports Objective, the podcast for Pirates.
My heart is purple and gold. I'm a pirate down of my soul, and I don't back down, not at all. Find out when the cannons explode.
All right, welcome in to the Pirate Football Playback right here on the Sports Objective. Unfortunately, the Pirates lose 34-13 in a very sad night, but hey, this is what we do, right, guys? So glad to be with each and every one of you, and we'll start out with a man that is a kinder, gentler Sunday night. It's easy as Sunday morning, or now Sunday night, Kyle Barber. I think you should be on NPR or like Album Rock.
Yeah. You know, I kind of lost it last night during the fifth quarter call-in show. So I'll go ahead and address that from the top of the show for anybody that heard my call. So I'm not going to apologize for anything except one thing. The useless SOB comment was probably a little out of line towards, and it wasn't even towards John Gilbert. It was more for dramatic effect. And I made the tiz on a Borog. That's something me and my daddy have said since I was a boy. I learned it from him.
My grandfather.
So it wasn't meant to be taken literally towards Ryan either. But I stand by the sentiment of everything else I said. Holton was asking the question about mediocrity and why are we accepting mediocrity, and I really do believe it comes from two places. One, because we were bad for so long that we're happy with mediocrity, and two, our administration just seems to accept and promote and want mediocrity. There's never you never hear John Gilbert or Ryan Robinson talk about how great we could be or how, this football program should be one of the best programs in the group of five and should be competing for the college football playoff every year. Why are we not, mentioned? Excuse me, why are we not mentioned? It's because we haven't been winning. But why are we not striving to be mentioned in the same breath as Boise State, in the same breath as Tulane, in the same breath as Memphis, in the same breath as UNLV this year, in the same breath as South Florida this year? Why is it that we're not one of the elite group of five programs, which now means if you are and you're competing for your conference championship every year, you have a chance to go to the playoffs. And if that's not talked about by our administration at the top level, from John Gilbert, from Ryan Robinson, et cetera, there's not, I heard John bragging about being fourth in the American in revenue. Well, what are we going to do to try to get to one or two? What are we going to do to try to catch Memphis? They did the Dollars for Touchdowns campaign that was announced before the season started. I can't remember exactly what it's called because it was only mentioned one time, but I can remember I joined it where you pledge a certain amount to give towards every touchdown. Dave, you did it too.
Yep.
It has not been. Why is that not posted every home game on the
I saw it last night. They had, I will say this, in the club level, they had like flyers on tables.
But I'm talking about on the scoreboard.
I know that.
For every Tom, Dick, and Harry to see with a QR code, where you just take that phone and reach up to the heavens above and let it touch that QR code magically there on the screen with your QR reader, and boom, you can join just like that. We got to create more revenue, and that was my point. That the administration needs to quit accepting mediocrity and almost advertising mediocrity. Quit referring to East Carolina as a school like us, and let's have goals and aspirations to get to the point where when BYU comes to town, we don't hope we can beat them. We know we're going to beat them.
Yeah.
Used to when Power 4, Power 5 schools came to Greenville, they were scared to death, and we did beat them. Not too long ago, we beat 5 ACC schools in a row when Ruffin McNeil was here. So we need to get back to that point, and we need to get to the point where we are openly discussing making the college football playoff. And not only that, and I'll get off this tangent, but I wanted to address it at the beginning of the show. I heard John Gilbert talking about our basketball program, saying we need to get our schedule a little bit more difficult so we can try to make the NIT. Well, that is a realistic goal, but that shouldn't be our publicly stated goal. Our publicly stated goal is we got to get this basketball program to the point where we can compete for the American Conference Championship.
Yeah,
Right.
That should be the goal, and I'll end it here. And again, to my comments last night, and you can blame Holton Ahlers for all this. He's the one that got me fired up. But so it's on Holton. Hey, administration, get mad at Holton. So the baseball program states publicly and has for years the goal is Omaha. And what do we do every year in baseball? We win, and we win big. We haven't made it to Omaha yet, but that's what's disappointing when we don't. That's why we're disappointed when we only make the regionals and the super regional, because the goal is Omaha. And because of that stated goal, the baseball program is always excellent. And that's what we have to do. And we have to figure out a way to do it from a financial standpoint and an on-the-field standpoint. And that's what I mean when I said what I said last night. And I was over the top when I said it. And again, I do apologize for the SOB comment and for the tits on a boarhog comment. I apologize for those.
Oh my
No,
God.
I'm being serious. I'm being serious. I apologize for those comments. I was fired up in the moment, but the sentiment of what I said, I stand behind 100%.
Well, Kyle, you and Holton, I mean, I was watching that, and I didn't watch it till this morning, but totally agree. Because, I mean, are we accepting just being a 7-5 team now? Or we, is that where we're at? We're just going to, we'll win 7 games. I mean, we could play with BYU. We
beat ourselves.
Exactly. I know we'll get into that as the show goes on, but I mean, the people, and I could see you. I mean, I was the same way. The people that were calling in and just saying, well, BYU is a good team. Yeah, they're a good team, but that doesn't mean we could accept this. You don't accept losing anytime. And especially when you had a chance to win that game. And now, I mean, the score didn't show it, but once that pick 6 happened, it took out a life out of everything. But we'll get into that a little bit. But I totally agree with that. We don't need to accept mediocrity. And I'm not going to get my voice higher and higher like somebody did last night on that call. But anyway, Kyle, you shouldn't. You shouldn't worry about that. Your point, I stand behind you. And I'm
not worried about my point, and I appreciate it.
Oh, I know that. I know you're not worried about it, but I'm just saying, I totally agree.
I think what I do is I get so damn fired up, and then I say things that, and it's not any kind of hatred. It's just I get fired up, and I say,
passionate. You're passionate.
Nobody's going to pay attention. I ain't going to get anybody's attention being nice. I don't have enough money. But when you – sometimes you have to say things that you really don't mean, so they'll hear the things you do mean. And what you hope is what you said that you didn't mean doesn't lose the point of the things you said that you did mean, if that makes sense. But they're going to notice when you say things like I said. And like I said, I didn't mean the derogatory comments, but the point of what I said, I meant wholeheartedly.
Let's bring in Matt Semenza. Matt, I want to bring you in because you're one of the people I think about, and a lot of the players from the 90s. And I know I talk about my time being one of the best in East Carolina history as far as being a student there, and then afterwards being a member of the media. But for me personally, Kyle's got a great point. Is we had a thing called the Peach Bowl. We went at 11-1, right? So I remember a few years ago, Brian Bailey asked Joe Dooley when he was here, how many games do you think you're going to win this year? And Joe Dooley said it was the very first press conference whenever he took over the second time for Joe Dooley 2.0. And so Brian said, how many games do you think you're going to win this year? And Joe Dooley said all of them. And I've always remembered that, because that's exactly the mentality we need to be. Are we going to go 12-0? Absolutely, probably not. But we need to have the mentality that means that when the players go on the field, that you think, oh, I'm going to lose to BYU. And there was I was behind the scenes with a coach you guys know, and it was after a show, and looking at the schedule, there was like a poster on the wall, right, that we always have. And the coach says, well, we can't win that one. We can't win that one. We can't win that one. And it was like down to where we had like 2 or 3 wins. So if the coach is saying that, I'm not saying that we have that now. My point is we need to be saying that we're going to win every basketball game. We're going to win every baseball game. If it's tiddlywinks, we're going to win everything, because if you don't, then that's what you guys were talking. I think, Stevie, when you were talking mediocrity, that's why we're only winning 7 games, because we only think we can win that many instead of thinking we can win 12. So I want to bring you in, Matt, because when you guys were on the field, you know that you could win that game. You knew you guys had the chip on the shoulder, and I'll talk more about the game when we get time. But I wanted to bring you in after Kyle's point, because you can't have, as a player, you can't have that mentality, right? Where we're going to lose this game, we're going to lose that game, I mean, I know there's reality where there's some bye games that are way out of control maybe, but a lot of these games we have on the schedule this year should be 50-50 games where we have a chance to win every single one of them, in my opinion.
Well, absolutely, guys. I mean, as a player, you go into every game thinking you're going to have a chance to win. And I firmly believe that this group of guys last night, they went into that game thinking that they were going to win the game. So, obviously that didn't happen, and it turned out to be very sloppy. But I'm not sure exactly what we're saying, but I think that like that team expected to go out and win last night. And I think Blake Harrell gives them that message from the top down that their expectation is to win every game. Now, I think, what I hear, I'll definitely agree with Kyle when I hear statements from the AD, like schools like us and things like that. Now that drives me berserk when John Gilbert says that, because that's doesn't send a great message to your program, right? Schools like us. What does that mean? What does that mean? So I agree that does not send a great message from the top down, but I can guarantee, guys, when that team stepped on the field last night, they were in their minds ready to win a football game, and they were ready to go. And that's the message they got from their coaches. Now, obviously it didn't shake out that way. Last night was a golden opportunity for East Carolina. And the worst possible thing happened last night, and that is the team didn't play well. I don't think the game plan was great offensively. Caton, who has been fantastic for us, probably played his worst game as a Pirate.
Yep.
So team didn't play well. Anthony Smith, who's been so reliable. What's that?
I was just adding to he dropped passes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. He's been so reliable, and he dropped numerous balls last night. So the team didn't play well. And like I said, the worst possible thing happened last night is that we had that stage and that environment, 46,000 strong, as I like to refer to it. And the crowd had cleared out midway through the third quarter. So it was the worst possible situation last night. And, there's a lot to break down tonight. But those are my opening comments.
And Johnny Robertson, what's up, brother? Want to get your thoughts, and if you want to address Kyle's fifth quarter call, and maybe your thoughts about the game.
Well, I'll address that very briefly. I was listening live, as I always do, mostly just to hear Kyle. And it was the caller a couple of calls before him that said, hey, I think at the beginning of the season, most Pirate fans would be happy to take 2-2 at this point in the season. And I was like, I don't know any of them. None of the fans I know would be happy with that. That's crazy. No. So I think that's what started it all. But I'll move on. We've talked about that enough. In regards, I do want to address Anthony Smith, though. I had some fans behind me that were just acting like he was the worst player to ever put on a Pirate uniform. And I'm like, hey, give him a break. He's a Pirate. He's done so much for us. The first 3 games, he caught 23 passes, 0 drops. He had a terrible night last night. 2 receptions, 3 drops. I mean, I don't know what was going on with him. I have no idea if he switched gloves, if he had a bad pregame meal. I have no idea. I don't know. But I'm not going to sit here and say that Anthony Smith is the reason we lost that game. It certainly didn't help with those 3 drops, but I don't think that's the reason we lost. And I'm confident that going forward, he's going to win us some games. So that's my thing on Anthony Smith.
Yeah, the reason we lost that game is primarily two things: penalties that put us behind the sticks constantly, false starts. There was something going on between Caton and the center last night. There was exchange issues all night, and then third, the arguably 14-point swing when Caton throws the interception in the end zone when he was running, then he throws the pick, and then the other end he throws the pick six when he's in our end zone. And that's those things right there are why we lost that game last night. And people talk about Anthony Smith. Yeah, Anthony had a lot of drops. He really did. But he's played great up until now. Yannick was open several times last night when we didn't target him. People have talked about the running game at nauseum as they should, and I do think we'll be able to run it on Army. I think we are getting better running the ball, actually. Not dramatic improvement, but we are getting better. I think we'll be able to run an Army. But here's something I'm really shocked, and we're going to have to look this up. I'd like to know how many passes over 30 yards we've completed this year. We are not taking very many deep shots, and when we are, Hauser's missing them. And I don't know if that's an O-line issue, if it's an issue because we can't run the ball, so the play action isn't effective on the deep ball. But that's something that we've got to have the ability to do is take the top off. And explosion plays in general. I'd like to know how many explosions. There's too much talent on this football team. There's way too much speed from Yannick Smith to Anthony Smith to Brock Spalding to Montgomery. We have got to have more explosion. And we're not using Mike Wright at all, really. It's certainly not effectively. We're not using our talent the right way. And we're not creating explosion plays. And that is something that should not be an issue for this offense. We should have explosion plays. And I don't understand that. And Matt, is that something that you've thought about? I know the running game's been talked about ad nauseum and the penalties, but the lack of explosiveness from this offense with the speed we have is it's dumbfounding.
It definitely is. And, just to kind of go back to your first point about there were definitely major issues last night between the center quarterback exchange on the snap. And I don't know what exactly was going on, but it seemed like Caton was having a really hard time just catching the ball and kind of getting it in the right spot for him to throw it. I noticed he seemed to be really struggling with that last night. And you saw it on the very first possession where we were in business, guys. I mean, you talk about a fantastic start. You return the kickoff to the 50, you get a first down, and then you have that drive essentially derailed by, the messed up, the muff snap there, the drop by Caton. So, yeah, there was definitely an issue all night that has to be fixed. But to your point, yeah, I mean, Kyle, we talked about last week, to win a game like this, you're going to have explosive plays down the field. And, we did hit on a few explosives against NC State. And against Coastal, we had those plays open. We did actually have opportunities to hit them, but for whatever reason, Caton just underthrew those balls and they just, he didn't complete them. But the plays were there. Last night, it just seemed like BYU knew it was coming, guys. And I'll say and Stevie, as a coach, I think you'll agree with me here. They were coming off a bye week. And there's two ways you can go off a bye week. You can either be rusty or you can be so prepared and have such a solid game plan that you play extremely well. And I think that's what it was for BYU. Coming off that bye week, I think they knew our offense inside and out. And they know that what we're looking to do is basically lull people to sleep on the run and then go deep to Anthony Smith off play action. And we couldn't find it last night. And to their credit, they had him covered up. Their corners were extremely long and talented. Mm-hmm. And we hit nothing down the field. And, I agree. When you don't have any explosives against a team like that, you're probably not going to win.
The offense.
Stevie, what are your thoughts on that, Stevie, as a coach? I mean, just talking about the bye week and how prepared they were.
Yeah, I mean, didn't we talk about this last week that we were not flying under BYU's radar? You know, they were ready for us, and just like you said, that bye week they prepared for us. They knew what we were trying to do, and they, you know, for the most part, took it away. I'm gonna say this: our offense looked almost exactly like the NC State game when we came out. We came, you know, there was, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Did we try to go across the middle any? Did we try to work the middle of the field? Because that
Not a lot.
Not a lot. That's one of my.
What I saw, the middle was open.
It was.
So I was disappointed in that. I think we got back to that kind of play calling, that you know, being careful and not taking shots, and I think that was one of the things that hindered us on offense.
Could it be, guys? I was going to ask you this. I felt like there was guys that were, and I'm wondering if this is the case. And anybody can address this, but Johnny, if you want to,
yeah.
But I felt like the guys were very nervous because I felt like that's why we got a whole bunch. I'm not making any excuses, but even all the way down to like wide receivers getting, you know, I think that we had 11 penalties. Not as many yards as I thought, but I think 7 of them, Johnny, were false starts.
7 false starts. You're right. Yannick had 2 of them. And I think Matt nailed it. It was just an issue between, you know, there was something weird going on that threw the timing off with everybody. And we actually had a false start, at least 1 false start in every quarter, including 3 in the second drive of the second half, which we did end up getting a field goal. And, you know, we stopped the drive stopped at the 7, but we had, you know, 15 yards in false start penalties during that drive. So it was definitely frustrating. Hey, I think one of the contributing reasons we lost the game also is the fact that after 11 plays, Tegan Wilk got ejected.
Yes.
And so then you got Kamari McKinley, who he did his best, God bless him. But he'd only played 43 snaps in the 3 prior games combined, and he was forced to play 47 snaps. And
does Tegan wear the headset, JR?
You mean is he the green dot player?
Yeah.
You know, I don't know for sure, Kyle. I'm not sure about that.
It would either be him or probably a middle linebacker, right?
Yeah,
that's what I was told.
Because it was Barker was our guy, you know, linebacker before last season. So I'm not sure. But just to finish that, you know, this is where we really, really missed the fact that we didn't have Demarius Hines, who was, you know, he got hurt right before the season started, because he was a very quality backup in the safety department. And, you know, Kamari McKinley's still learning, and he'll get better, but that was a tough assignment for him to have to play 47 snaps against that offense.
Right. Johnny, Monica has a great
Monica
has a great question. We have a lot of people. Thank you so much. It's a huge audience tonight, and thank you. There are so many comments. It's hard to keep up, but Monica has a great one. She wants to know, Johnny, how many of the false starts were on first down or critical third downs, and just so many third and long, which is a testament to our lack of run game.
Wow, Monica, that's a great question. And I didn't have the foresight to put down what downs these penalties occurred on. I'll go back and do it. I'll report back to you. That was a great question, though.
I swear a lot of them did occur on first down. It really seemed that way, Matt. I don't know if you noticed that, but I swear.
Yeah, I did.
There was several on third, like we had 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, and it was
like
3rd and 13 or 3rd and 14, something like that. They just put us in a bad spot.
Matt,
no doubt.
Matt, I wanted to ask you, JR mentioned Tegan, and then we'll get some more questions from the audience. But Tegan being back there, an experienced guy who's played here, came back. I listened to Blake's press conference, and you know, if he doesn't wear the earpiece, he implied that he certainly is very vocal back there and helps get the defense organized.
Yeah, that's a.
So how I don't think we lost it because of the defense, but how big of a loss, you being a former linebacker, do you think Tegan was?
Yeah, well, he sets the coverage on the back end, so that's a huge thing, and like his ability to recognize offenses and formations and but it's more like where this comes into play, guys. The experience is all the shifts and motions that you see, week in and week out, where you have to constantly, adjust to what they're doing. And every time they motion and shift, you have to adjust on the back end. So his experience and his ability to adjust the coverages is huge. So that was a big, a big loss early in that game. And I'm not going to go off on this tangent, I promise, but the NCAA has got to change that rule. It is a horrible rule. Again, it should be the first time you target, you get a warning and it's a 15-yard penalty. Right. And the second time, if you do it twice, you get ejected. But it's not fair to these guys who practice their ass off all week.
Right.
And this is a full contact game where people are running extremely fast. And it's not easy for a safety to pull up and figure out where to place his head and shoulder pads. It's much harder than it looks on TV. So again, not going to get off on that, but that rule has to change. But yeah, it was a huge loss. And then, guys, in terms of the penalties, I got to just touch on the penalties for a second because it's driving me nuts. Right now, John David Baker has got to seize control of this offense. All right. Blake gave him full control offensively. And right now, this offense is underachieving badly. I mean, badly. And, look, let's forget about Campbell for a minute. Let's just put that game to the side. It really hasn't been that clean of an operation all year. NC State was a mess, okay, including the last play call. Coastal was very, very sloppy at times, very sloppy. Credit the defense on that one. And then yesterday I thought was a mess offensively too. The first thing you do as an offensive coordinator is you have to clean up these penalties. You have to. I don't understand why it's happening. I do have a theory that it's because we rotate so much that it's disrupting the continuity on offense. But he's got to get that under control. I mean, that's his job. And I don't think, John David Baker has been at the top of his game this year yet. I think in the bowl game last year, tremendous effort. He was awesome in that game. He was one step ahead of NC State. But so far this year, I don't think he's been at his best. So, that's what are your guys' thoughts on that?
I wanted to give y'all and I wanted to get y'all's thoughts too on we talked ad nauseum. This is what I was thinking. It was either the second quarter.
Hold on. Matt asked a specific question. Let's answer Matt's question first. Matt asked specifically of what we thought about JDB not being at his best.
Right.
I agree with that. I don't know what's going on with that. I don't know if the play calling is being affected by the lack of the running game and so much of the offense he was running this year. And even late last year when we had success, people think of the passing game, but a lot of that was due to Rajay. So I don't know if the lack of running game is affecting JDB's play calling, but he needs to be more creative with it. There's a lot of air raid aspects to this offense. Utilize them. Utilize the air raid aspects of the offense if you can't get the run going. I do think we're going to be able to run it better going down the stretch. I think playing BYU in that front seven, how good it is, could help us going forward be able to establish the run. But I do think he hasn't been at his best calling plays. I don't know if there's some personal issues that have him distracted or what it is. But no, to answer your question, Matt, I don't think he's been at his best calling plays. I don't know how the rest of the guys feel.
I'm the same way with you. Jimmy. Yeah, I'm the same way with you. It's like you said, everybody kind of overlooked everything with the Coastal game last week because the score. But like Matt said, it was sloppy last week too. And I just think the way it started off yesterday or last night, it just reminded me so much of NC State all over again. Yeah, so I'm like Kyle, I don't know what's going on. It could be the lack of the running game affecting how he's calling things, but I mean, you gotta take some chances sometimes. When Blake took over last year, the first play, what was the first play that JDB called? It was like a flea flicker or something like that. Yeah, I mean, be creative. We got to take chances sometimes and open up this offense, just like Kyle said.
I agree.
Right.
Hey, Matt, I wanted to get your opinion on this. From what I noticed, JDB really tried to make up for the fact that the running game was not hitting on all cylinders. It was bizarre last night. Okay, so just to back up, through the first 3 games, we had 90 receptions. 5 of them were by running backs. That's 5.5%. Last night, there were 25 receptions, 7 by running backs, 28%. And I mean, it really wasn't all that effective. London Montgomery had a really nice catch and run.
Yeah, he did.
To throw to the running backs that many times when that's not something you've been doing, and like Holton mentioned last night, and I think Stevie may have mentioned it earlier, and maybe even Matt, that we didn't take advantage of man-to-man coverage as much on Smith. Yannick was running free over the top, and we just didn't try to get it to him enough. I mean, we threw it to him 10 times, but we should have thrown it to him 20 times instead of throwing to the running backs all those times.
Yes, to that point, Johnny, I was saying that in the press box to our good friend Alan Vick. Y'all know that Yannick has the hot hand, and when you have a team aspect in offense, whoever has the hot hand, he was like that. What I was going to mention before, I'll say the first part and save the second part, so that way Kyle won't think I'm off topic. What it is that my opinion is I think Hauser is, and I've heard this from other people, so maybe I'm wrong. I think that he is making the wrong reads. He's throwing, in other words, that pass, the interception he had. He's making a lot of good choices, but then there was times last night where he was forcing things that were not there to try to make a big play. I understand it's BYU. I understand it's Dowdy-Ficklen Stadium. I will put blame because it's the offensive coordinator, but I also believe that it's kind of like a 50-50 thing where he's calling a good play and Hauser is not able to find that person. I don't know, but it's to me, we were talking about, and this was the second part of what I was going to say earlier, is the defense. We were talking about how we were worried about the defense. The defense has played really well for the most part. The offense that we thought that was going to be really good and that I took for granted has not lived up to its expectations yet. And so if I'm Hauser, y'all have got to find a way. That's what, if I'm Hauser and JDB, you got to find a way for him not to, I don't know if he's panicking or what it is, but I wanted to throw that out to you guys because that was what I noticed.
Yeah, I think on the first pick when we were down in the red zone and he threw that, that's just a play where, listen, we were covered up on the back end. There was nowhere he could go with that ball. Now, he did roll out to his right. The plan was to get him out of the pocket, to move him to his right and scan the field. Clearly nobody was open. So look, if Caton was to go back, he's either just going to try to tuck the ball and run it and maybe get a yard or two, or he's just going to throw it out of the back of the end zone. So I think that's what he would do to have it back. I do think that pick led to the next pick because what happens as a quarterback, sometimes you start to get in your head. And I think the pressure got to him a little bit. And like I said, I just don't think Caton looked comfortable all night. He really didn't to me. He just was having trouble with the snaps and I think that what happened, part of the problem with last night is our guys were so amped up for the moment. National stage, all the fireworks and everything. I think our guys were so amped up for the game that they just couldn't seem to settle down and play football. And that's why Anthony Smith was dropping those passes, which he doesn't normally do. And you start seeing some uncharacteristic mistakes and that can be a problem. Like you get so amped up and you can't settle down. And I think that was a big part of it last night.
How about that punt return where what's his name? Help me. He's been great all year. And he has been. What's that? Johnny?
I said he has been great. And I love when people are trying to be aggressive. So I didn't want to really fault him for it, but it really probably was a bad decision to try to field that punt.
Yeah, and then that led to the pick six, and Hauser had a chance, Matt, when you were talking about the second pick, where I thought he was going to when he was rolling out and running there at the boneyard end right before before he threw the ball. I really thought he was just trying to get a few extra yards. And then you have third down. If you don't make the first down, and if you don't make the first down, then you kick the field goal. It's a 6-6 ball game. Totally. I'm aggressive. I want the touchdown. But when the touchdown, like you made great point, Kyle, when you have a great defense, when it's not there, it's not there. It doesn't mean that you're a bad quarterback, or you're right about, I was wondering that the second half, Matt, if he was getting in his head.
Yes, and he did it last year. He'll get in his head. He's streaky, and you hope as every time he cuts some of that out. He's a good quarterback. He just, boy, that pick, there was just no need for it. You run it like we mentioned, and you pick up a couple yards, or you throw it back to the end zone. If you settle for a field goal there, then at worst, at halftime is 6-6. Completely different ball game. Like I say, that pick, and then we stop them, the muff punt, and then we throw the pick at the other end. It was arguably a 14-point swing. At worst, a 3-point swing, or at best, however you want to say that. So you're talking 6-6, potentially 10-6, and instead we go down at halftime, down 13-3, and it was just all downhill from there. I made the point to Bubba, I think it was last night, that it reminded me a little bit, not in terms of the play of the game, but just in terms of being in at halftime and then it getting away from us so much in the second half. It reminded me a little bit of the Navy game last year in Greenville.
Yeah. Hey, I don't know if many people realize it, but not only were those interceptions that Hauser threw on back-to-back offensive plays, but the same dude on BYU picked them both times.
Well, he baited
the same guy.
He baited him that second, that pick six. He baited him. He gave him enough room, because I saw that when he came out. I said he's giving him a lot of room. You better be careful over there. And as soon as he threw it, that cornerback broke on the ball. He knew.
Matt, Matt, is that part of the reason why you're questioning JDB's play calling? Because why would you throw that route and that situation from that field position at that time of the game?
That's what I'm saying with Hauser. I think Hauser overdid. I'm sorry, Matt. Go ahead.
Sorry, Dave. I didn't mean to cut you off. And again, I do put that on JDB, and I'm not trying to knock on JDB. He's done some really, really good things here, but it just wasn't his best game as a play caller. And in that situation, I think BYU had one timeout. It was 50? I think there was 52 seconds left on the
at the
clock.
snap.
Don't have to run it.
So what I'm doing there now, the ball was very close to the goal line. So from a coaching perspective, if you try to run it there, you do risk a safety. You do risk that, especially with that nose tackle 54, who was just blowing up our O-line all night. So what I would do in that situation, I would quarterback sneak it. I'd put the quarterback under center, quarterback sneak it. Just try to give yourself a few inches, maybe a yard off the goal line. Force them to call the timeout. All right, they burned their last timeout. I would then do one more quarterback sneak, all right, possibly two, and just take it to halftime. Let the clock run out.
Yeah, hey, isn't it funny, Matt, how
there's no sense to, again, why would you call that play in that spot? You're not going to score a touchdown. Just live for another day. It was just the type of thing where everybody wants that back.
Matt, look, this is what I'm talking about with Hauser. It was a run play. It was a call run play. Hauser changed the play on the pick six, and that's what I'm talking about. He was trying, as one of my friends says at work, he's trying to do too much, and you let the game come to you. As simple as that may sound, it was a run play called, and he changed it. He checked down and tried to make a hero kind of throw, and only, as I say many times to my kids, we're at ball games, only bad things can happen if you throw. And I remember Rob Cass, I believe it was many years ago at Virginia Tech. He's at when we were playing at Virginia Tech, and he throws a pick six, and we were way down in our -10, way back there, and he throws a pick six. So anytime you have a situation where you throw the ball and you're so close to your own goal line, maybe unless you have something, I don't know how you guys feel, but
I just think, like, I see some comments. It was a called run play, and
It was.
maybe so.
Blake said that on the press conference last night, that it was a called run. It was an RPO, with the run being the first option on the RPO, and Caton checked in the RPO, checked into a pass.
But like, why would you have an RPO in that spot? Like, it again, to me, that just goes back to a bad plan. And I'm not disputing what you're saying. I'm just saying, from an OC standpoint, put your quarterback under center and run a quarterback sneak and just give yourself a little room. Like, just running an RPO in that spot does not make sense. So I don't know. The whole thing was just wrong, I thought.
In fact, so in other words, Matt, you think he was on that play call? John David Baker was too aggressive. In other words, be more conservative. And look, as all the time we talked about the show, Mike Houston not being aggressive.
Well, I mean, the question I would ask Matt there, when he said you wouldn't have an RPO called there, how much of this offense are they given? How much flexibility or leeway are they giving Caton? Is that part of maybe a little bit of his struggles? Is he being asked to make too many decisions at the line versus running what's called? Is he not ready for that yet? I mean, I know, like, Holton, by his senior year, he was pretty much audibling into whatever he wanted to at the line. You want some RPO aspects. It's good to let the quarterback have that leeway because he can read the defense. But, does it get to a point where obviously every play that's called is not an RPO, but sometimes the quarterback is allowed to check in and out of plays anytime they want? Do you think we're giving Caton too much responsibility, maybe?
It could be, Kyle. Like, and I think that is a strong possibility in many situations. But like in that specific situation, for me personally, I'm just saying, for me personally, I just wouldn't even allow the possibility of an option. Like, I would just nip that in the bud and say, there's no way. Like, we are not throwing the ball here. We're going to just try to get this thing to halftime in this spot. And I think, but Kyle, to your point, yeah, like middle of the field, I think he does have a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? Ability to change those plays.
Yeah, no doubt.
I hope I answered your question. Did I answer your question?
You answered my question. I thought Dave was going to pick back up with a comment or something from the.
What does Stevie think on that? Stevie, as a coach, I mean, like,
I'm like you. I'm trying to get out of the half, because I made a comment in our text group last night. We need to just get out of here before something bad happens. And it wasn't like 5 seconds later that I'm like you, Matt. I do a quarterback sneak up the middle, try to get some real estate between us. So if we do have to punt, and just like you said, make them take that last timeout or however many timeouts they had and run the clock out and just be happy going into the half, because you're not going to go. We have no time. That's another thing. Something that drives me crazy, and maybe it's just me as a coach, the way we handled our timeouts in the first half last night. We called our last timeout with 8 minutes left in the first half. It drives me crazy. I like to have at least one going into the last 2 minutes, because you never know what might happen. And if you don't have that one timeout, then you're screwed. But I'm like you. Get some room out of that end zone. Get out of that end zone and just be happy to be down 6-3 at the half and get out of there. It was a dangerous situation, and it, like I said, that defensive back baited Hauser into it and gave him that room. And like, as soon as he threw the ball, he broke on that route.
No doubt, and that to me, when I saw that was like a dagger for me, like going, oh wow, that is a really, really bad play that could really end up biting us. And I do believe it. Here's another thing too, by the way, guys. Cruise control. Hello, cruise control. Marlon Gunn Jr. is a bruiser, but sometimes to be overlooked for the sexy convertible running back. I was bragging about him again in the press box last night. I think he is healthy again. We talked about it as springtime, but just want to get y'all's thoughts on Marlon Gunn, because I know people made comments about, again, the running backs and having so many running backs, but I think there's special situations for Marlon and our different running backs, Parker Jenkins. And
he had a couple good runs last night. I would use Montgomery as my primary every down back, and I would probably use, I don't know. I go back and forth on that. I do think Parker Jenkins has talent, and I think he's somebody that, I thought we'd be able to use him a lot maybe in the passing game. But from what I saw last night, Montgomery, I think, should be our primary back, and then I would just sub in Gunn and Parker to relieve him. I didn't see, Gunn. I thought, that's not the first person. Last night on the fifth quarter, I heard somebody call in and say Gunn needs to be our primary back, and I'll defer to everybody else. Right now, if you had to make a primary back, so because I think this rotation is just too damn much, and I know Matt's been on that all year. But if you were to choose a primary back and then two backups, which one of the three would you make the primary back? Whoever wants to go first.
I mean, I'll take it, because London Montgomery, if you're watching these games, it's got to be him. I mean, Marlon got involved in the passing game for the first time this season. He had a couple of catches. And the other thing is Parker is really good in pass blocking. Like, he's the best back, and we pass a lot. So I understand why Parker Jenkins would be in there a lot, because he definitely gives us the best advantage at pass blocking. But as far as an every down, if you had to choose one back, it's got to be London Montgomery. I mean, what does he not do?
Right. And then I think my rotation would be Montgomery, Gunn, and Jenkins. If you have those top three, that's what I would do. But what do you think, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing about Montgomery, and there were two plays in particular last night. There was one, it was like a little flare where he caught it. I think Johnny mentioned it earlier in the show, where he flashed his speed on that. He flashed his speed. You could see it very clearly, how quick he is. And then there was another run at some point earlier in the game. I thought there were two situations where I'm sitting at home here in Connecticut watching it on TV saying, wow, he's got some wheels. So he's the guy for me, Montgomery. And then, between Jenkins and Gunn, I think they're pretty similar guys, honestly. Like, I don't see a big difference between the two. I do think Marlon Gunn is our best, like in short yardage situations, like fourth and a yard or, third and a few inches. I think he's your guy who can get downhill and get his pads low and be your bruising runner in that situation. So I do think that. But yeah, Gunn and Jenkins, I would kind of leave that to like, hey, whoever's playing the best, whoever's having the best week of practice. But London Montgomery's got to be your guy.
No doubt. And guys, obviously a tough loss. And, we're not going to dwell on that now. We have Army. I want to get your early thoughts on Army. And of course, don't forget, fans, we got a lot of people watching and listening tonight. Appreciate it very much, as we have Army coming into town a short week on Thursday. And just want to get I did have one question before I get your thoughts on Army. Matt, I will start with you, and then Stevie and Kyle and Johnny, obviously, as well. I asked a question last night to Blake. Do you guys think that I know we have Army, I know it's a service academy, but after that frustrating loss that they know they had BYU on the ropes there in the first half, I'm not talking about the second half, but the first half is towards the end of the first half is when things unraveled. Would you prefer to have a short week having, I know it's Army and a service academy, or do you want the regular Saturday because you want to go ahead and just flush that loss out and go ahead and play again? How do you feel, Matt, as a competitor, and Stevie?
As a competitor, you want to get out there as soon as possible. Yeah. You just do. Like, you want to get that bad taste out of your mouth, and you want to just you want to just go hit somebody and play football. Like, the thing about this game is Army, their game was just slightly before ours yesterday. So, not too much of a difference in the times of the games played, and now they have to travel to us. Now, obviously, for that style offense, it's always tough on a short week. I'm sure any coach would tell you they'd prefer to have the additional time. So I guess it depends if you're looking at it as a player or a coach.
I think it's a great thing to have them on a short week because, I mean, they have two quarterbacks. They're trying to find somebody that they can rely on. Army, the quarterback, is everything. I mean, he's literally the guy. And Coleman, who replaced Helm started the game, was completely ineffective. Army's had a lot of turnovers this season, and most of them have been from Cale Helms. And he was replaced when they were down big to North Texas, and Coleman brought him back. And then in overtime, in the second play of overtime, Coleman left the game with some sort of leg injury. So, I mean, you know, I don't wish injuries on anybody, but as far as I would rather have Army, you know, when maybe Coleman may not quite be well enough to be as effective as he could be. And then we have Helms, who absolutely cannot throw the football, and he's only averaging 3.0 yards per carry, and that's terrible for an Army quarterback.
Yeah, Coleman. Yeah, they use them both, and I think they'll use them both Thursday. If Coleman can't go, or he's not at 100%, that's a big advantage for us. Huge advantage. So from that aspect of a short week, I like it. In general, playing Army, I don't like them on a short week, and I also don't like when you have this damn many false starts and penalties that need to be cleaned up. I don't like having it on the short week. My answer in general, because of this specific opponent, would be no. I don't like it, and because of the amount of penalties we've been getting, I don't like having it on a short week. But because of the situation with Coleman, again, they're going to use them both. They don't, for whatever reason, you know, they've been using them both. But Coleman is definitely, you know, and watch now, the other kid's going to light us up. But Coleman up to this point has been way more effective. So I'm with JR on that. I know he's had some leg injury issues earlier this year, which, you know, I actually, if I'm not mistaken, they may have upset Kansas State without him. I'll have to go back and look at that, which sounds insane. But he is definitely the more effective of the two backs, and they do use them both. They're a 1-2 football team. They're interesting. They lost to Tarleton State. You know, it's never a talent issue. Everybody's more talented than Army. It's an execution issue. So when they get upset by a good FCS program, and Tarleton State is a good FCS program, they were a Division II power. They moved up the FCS. They already made the playoffs, and there's already talks of them moving to FBS and joining Conference USA. So them losing to them didn't surprise me, and also didn't surprise me when they upset Kansas State the following game. Army has to speak of, and then North Texas is really good this year, and that was an overtime game. But to answer a short question, very long-winded, in this particular situation, because of Coleman potentially not being 100% or maybe even being out, I'm glad to have him on a short week. Now, if he ends up being 100% and can play, then I completely change my answer.
Tell me again, guys, because I didn't get to see much of it. So Coleman, he got banged up yesterday late in that game. Now he's more of the athletic running quarterback. Is that what you're saying? Because I don't really know.
Yes, and also he's also the better thrower. Honestly, don't know why they've been playing them both. They have been playing them both. But they both can run. He has the ability. I think the other kid has a better grasp of the offense, but Coleman has the ability to break the ball, to break big plays in the running game, and he also has the bigger arm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you guys know, by the way, I was just looking at the line, and it's from last year, and I saw quickly when my eyes got really big, the line for this week's game is, so that has to be last year. It was the line for last year's Army game was 17. I was about to go off like Kyle, but I knew it had to, and it was. Do you guys know the line for today's game? I mean, this Thursday's game?
Yeah, we're 3-point favorites.
Okay. That's more I was thinking, anywhere between a field goal to a touchdown favorite. So, all right, that makes me feel better. And we, of course, I want to remind everybody we have our preview coming up, and that'll be on Wednesday night. Don't forget that at 8 o'clock. And guys, we have a little bit of time left. Do you want to talk about the American? Hey, here's a stat for you, Johnny. We are the only conference in America that is beating. We have a win in every P4 against every P4 conference in America. So I think, when everybody's talking about conference or teams like us or the conference or whatever, including, how about that Memphis win over Arkansas? That was a really big game, a really great game last night, and they pulled it out. I think they were down. Am I right on that? And they came back and won it against Arkansas, if my memory serves me right. But man, Memphis is really, really. I think I'll tell you what my thoughts are really fast on Memphis. I think they're really pissed off that they didn't get chosen to a P4 conference, and they're going to let everybody know that they belong. And that's what we have to do this week, starting conference play. We've got to show everybody that we belong and that we're going to win the damn conference. That's what we expect. And anyway, what do you guys think about the American?
Yeah.
We have time.
The Memphis win was really nice over Arkansas. They were down big in that game. Hell of a comeback at home to beat a good SEC school in Arkansas. Very, very impressive. And yeah, it was a crazy game. So hats off to Memphis for doing that. That's the kind of thing we used to do and what we got to get back to. Also, Tulsa beat an historically bad Oklahoma State team, probably the worst Oklahoma State team in history, and they were without their starting quarterback. So that looks good for Tulsa. It is a good win for Tulsa. That's a big-time win for their in-state, for their fan base. And it's good for the conference to be the Big 12 school. But make no mistake about it, if that Oklahoma State team rolled into Dowdy-Ficklen yesterday, we'd have whipped the dog shit out of them. So make no mistake about that. But, Dave, I didn't realize that the American had a win over every power conference. I know we have 2 over the Big 12 that come to mind, 1 over the SEC that comes to mind. Then Duke out of the ACC by Tulane, Florida out of the SEC from USF, Northwestern out of the Big 10 from Tulane. Is that it? That does cover it all, doesn't it? Yeah, that's it. That's all 4 conferences. So yeah, we do. That's
the American. If you get a chance, I like the American. They do a good job with their Facebook page, and I check it out. Like usually Saturdays or Sundays, and I just happen to check it out.
And I'll say this, and I told this to the group, and I'll say it on the air. Not to the group with Dave. I told it to a different chat group. We have 15 dozen different chat groups, and I said, don't tell Dave this. And I'm gonna say this live on the air, Dave, and it's due to change at any point in time. And remember, a broken clock's even right once a day. And so I will say this. I love the Sun Belt in terms of regional rivalries, and I still think it's a lot of fun, and I think it would be more fun if you could travel so much. But through 2 years of the new American, besides the bottom of the league, which I think I hate some of the teams that are in it, I think the American has really almost overachieved, particularly this year. And as we sit today, the American is a better conference in football than the Sun Belt. So, and I honestly didn't think I'd be saying that. I thought, and I still think some of the additions this conference made is stupid. And if you look at any of the new additions, with the exception of UTSA, and they had a nice non-conference win yesterday over Colorado State from the Mountain West, soon to be Pac-12. But I will say that I think the American is a better conference than the Sun Belt as we sit here on September 21st, 2025.
I'm sorry, Dave. Keep cutting you off, man.
No, Dave wants to gloat. Dave wanted to
gloat. No, go ahead, Dave. Go ahead. I need to let you.
No. That's not what I was going to ask you guys. I was actually going to make a criticism of the American. So I'm not going to gloat on that. That's something that Kyle and I have disagreed with. That it's okay because we're truly like brothers, and sometimes we're going to agree and sometimes we won't. But one of my questions for you guys, and I'm not trying to steer this off. I still a quick comment if y'all can help me out on this. But I don't understand. Can y'all help me understand the conference scheduling? I agree. I don't want to play USF this year because they are really, really good. But it seems like forever since we haven't played UAB since they've been in the conference, I believe, off the top of my head. We haven't played them yet. And speaking of what I'm getting at is, to your point, Kyle, my criticism is you can almost do a bus ride to some of these schools, right? To USF. It wouldn't be great.
I'd like, and I don't know. This is a more of an off-season discussion, but I personally would like to go to divisions, and I know because of the college football playoff, they want to have the 2 best teams playing each other in the championship. But you take this conference, and you could have an East Division with East Carolina, Army, Navy. That's New York, Maryland, North Carolina, Charlotte, another team in North Carolina, uh, Temple in Philadelphia, South Florida in Tampa, Florida Atlantic in Boca. That's 7. And
Yeah.
there you go. And now you got a nice Eastern Division. So yeah, I'd like to do that. You're talking about travel. So we could make the conference more regional, but I don't think that's going to happen because of the playoff format.
You're correct. Yeah, but I didn't mean to steer off that. It's just something that's bothered me for the last year. And like, we're not playing all the team. Not that, again, it's whoever's on the schedule will play them. I'm not, but
do we have any more comments from listeners we need to get up before we get out of here?
As you pull those up, I just want to make 2 comments myself. Number one, what in the world has happened to Mike Gundy in Oklahoma State? That program is a train wreck.
Yeah.
And second comment, something that just kind of bothering me today as I kind of reading through comments on different message boards and platforms about last night. And after I say this, I'll shut up for the night. A lot of our fans were sort of blaming the loss last night on resources and P4 and G5 and we're not gonna look. Those are real things. Those are factors. Like, there's no question that there are advantages, but last night wasn't one of those situations. Like, last night we lost that game because we didn't play good football. It's simple as that. I mean, you can't, like, false starts have nothing to do with resources. Bad picks have nothing to do with resources. I mean, you take those things away, and that's a very competitive game. But that's all I wanted to say. That's all I wanted to say about that.
What it does, Matt, is when you're playing a team with better resources and therefore better talent, when you make mistakes like that, it amplifies them because you can't make up for it like when you're playing Coastal. So from that aspect, it makes a difference. But if you got to play, you don't have to play perfect, but you got to play really good, damn near perfect,
right,
to beat a team like BYU because of the extra resources and extra money. But no, the reason we lost last night, or maybe not the reason we lost, the reason it got out of hand and we didn't walk out there going, damn it, we almost had them, is because of mistakes.
Right.
And one more thing I want to mention before we get to comments and get out of here. How about Coastal? We just whipped their butts, and maybe we'll have the same response against the Army. And that's what I would challenge our players. Look what Coastal did. Don't hang your heads.
South Alabama.
We beat Coastal 38-0, and then they came up last night and put 38 points up on South Alabama. Came from behind in Mobile. And South Alabama's a pretty good team in the Sun Belt, and beat them 38-23 or something like that. And so that's what I would challenge our team is look at what Coastal did after we walked the dog on them. They came back out and put 38 up on Coastal. So that's what I would challenge our boys. Let's go put 38 on Army.
Kyle, can I give you just a quick example on that really quick? Yeah. I said I lied. I'm still talking.
You lying son of a bitch.
Johnny will love this. Johnny will love this because Johnny's kind of a historian. But I would love to talk to the team this week. I would do anything to have an opportunity to speak with them about what the 1996 team went through with a loss at home on ESPN, a humiliating.
Yes, sir. There you go, Matt. Speak on it, baby.
A humiliating Thursday night loss to Southern Mississippi at home. It was one of the most embarrassing nights of my playing career at ECU. We got our asses kicked that night. Jeff Bauer and Southern Miss took it with us, or took it to us. And that whole week, all we heard was, oh, how bad this team sucks. We got killed. We got embarrassed. And guess what we did the next week? We went down to the Orange Bowl and beat the dog shit out of Miami.
That's right.
So, yes, I'm a little fired up right now, but I would love an opportunity to share that story with the team because they can bounce back. They can bounce back, and they should.
Yeah, how can we make that happen? How can we get Matt down there?
Yeah, well, it doesn't have to be down there. Let's just get him on video. Let him tell that story because you're right. ESPN prime time, and that's back when Thursday night games were even bigger than they are now. There was no NFL Thursday night.
Yeah.
Southern Miss comes into Greenville and destroys us.
Game.
Yeah, and then we go to Miami the following week. We could have hung our head, but instead we went to Miami. So and that's the cool thing about this. That's something else to remind the guys of. This game's on ESPN in primetime Thursday night. So everybody that saw you lose to BYU, don't hang your head about it. Go do something about it. You have the opportunity Thursday night to beat the defending conference champions, to beat the team that just beat Kansas State a couple of weeks ago, live on ESPN in prime time. And you make a great comparison, Matt, from the Southern Miss game in '96 to the Miami game in '96.
Yeah, Kenneth says Oregon State and Washington State are really bad. The Pac-12 prospects for next year aren't looking great compared to the American. Totally agree.
Boise,
100%.
Yeah, I agree. Boise is going to be the best team in that league next year by far.
Yep, and let's see here. American better than Pac-12 and ACC.
That's a stretch.
I don't know about the ACC, but yeah, definitely better than the Pac-12. There's only 2 teams in it.
How about old Belichick? What you guys think about that now?
Yes, the answer to that question that was just asked on screen. Yes, if the American team makes the playoff, we do get a larger percentage of the playoff cut. Yes.
Yeah, Chapel Bill. He got that trademarked, and Chapel Bill. I thought it was funny. Patrick Johnson. I'll give him credit for this. He calls the Bill Belichick to UNC a retirement job, and he said normally when you think about somebody that's a retirement job, they're bored and they get a job at Lowe's. He said, but this guy's getting $10 million for a retirement job. And I really believe that that's true. I really believe that. And I have some Carolina friends that texted me one right before the show. And there were Carolina fans that did not want the Bill Belichick experiment. And texted me, and it has gone. I said it would go really well or really bad. And they're not guys. They're not even favored. And I'm not a Carolina fan. I really don't care. But they're not favored again to like the Stanford game. Stanford is not the Stanford that we've known in recent times. That's the next game they're favored in.
Well, a lot of things change between now and then. But I don't. I said yesterday, they lost to TCU. TCU's really good. So I actually said to somebody yesterday, maybe Jessica, I don't know who I was talking to. I said that it may have been a bit of a overreaction. They beat Charlotte, they beat Richmond. You can't tell anything from that. I said yesterday against UCF would kind of be how bad is UNC? Are they really, really bad? Or are they middle of the road football team? They're not going to make a bowl game this year. I'll be shocked if they make a bowl game. I think this will be a one and done. I think he'll step away after this year. What were you going to say, JR?
I have an interesting comment that a friend of mine who's a high school teammate, he played at Carolina, went on to play with the Redskins. But anyhow, him and a lot of his teammates from that era, they're actively rooting against North Carolina, which is they're diehards. I mean, they bleed Tar Heel blue, but they're rooting against them because they don't want any part of this experiment. They hate it. They want it to end and move on.
Hey, B-Pace, I saw this yesterday, guys. Check this out. The biggest thing happening with UNC football is Ludacris is performing on the 4th with a Clemson game.
Hey, Clemson is.
Speaking of which,
they're talking. They are actually looking at the buyout options on Dabo's contract now.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
It's coming up in the headlines, buddy.
Yeah, I know. I'm not saying I doubt you. I think that's probably not the smartest move. I think I do think Dabo's kind of not getting with the times or waited too long to get with the times, but I don't. Man, what all he's done for Clemson football, I believe I'd let him finish out the season to see where it goes.
Oh, I agree.
Hey, Dabo,
head coach for Mike Houston.
Dabo to Florida. Dabo to the Florida Gators. They'll take him down there.
You heard it here first.
They ain't going to do that.
Hey, Matt, that would be – I'll tell you what. He said last night, he's getting – you can feel if you don't think there's a buyout coming, and I didn't say I want that. I think it's crazy. And speaking of ludicrous, I think it's ludicrous. But the fact that he's being very defensive, and he said last night, yesterday afternoon in the press conference, he said, yeah, you can go ahead and buy me out. He said, I'll be coaching somewhere else next year. He said, I'm only 55 years old, and I got plenty of football left in me.
Oh, yeah.
Matt, do you think it's the Mike Houston effect?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I thought about that.
100%.
I thought
wow. The guy's become how times have changed. But yeah, 1-4. And you know what? They got didn't they get a garbage touchdown towards the end? I mean, it was like 34 Was it 34?
34-21, I think it was.
That was the final. I think they were at one point. It was 34-14, and I was like, "Oh my god!" I thought they had made a mistake. I thought it was 34 Clemson, or maybe my eyes were playing tricks on me. But that I tell you what, Mike Gundy, Dabo Sweeney, Bill Belichick,
Bill Napier, not Bill Napier, but Napier.
Yeah. Oh, Billy
Napier. Yeah, okay, I wasn't that far off.
Yeah, one letter. By the way,
Matt, sounded funny, Bill Napier. It just doesn't sound like the same guy.
How are things when you were talking about Florida with Chrissy being a graduate from Florida? How that fan base deserves so. I've told you that as nauseum. That fan base deserves better. How much longer? How much of a leash does he have left? I mean,
I think Napier's done, guys. I really do. I mean, the Florida fan base is just. I mean, look at yesterday. They scored 7 points. You're Florida. You're the Florida Gators. You have
the flagship.
The ability to wake up in the morning and roll out of bed and bring in 5-star recruits off the street just because you're a Florida Gator. The fact that they can't score points but you know what's crazy? Their defense is legit. That was a 14-7 game late. Florida can play defense. They held LSU down last week pretty well too. The offense is historically bad. And
I got a name for you, Matt, for the Florida job. And the reason I'm stalling is I can't think of his name.
Give us a school or something.
The TCU head coach.
Dykes, right?
Dykes.
Yes. I mean, what do you think of Dykes to Florida? You want an offensive-minded guy? He took TCU to the national championship game. I think they're one of 3 or 4 teams that will be playing. Well, not 3 or 4 teams that'll be playing for the Big 12 championship. That's impossible. They're one of 3 or 4 teams that can play for the Big 12 championship this year. Do you think that would be a good fit? I mean, he's a Texas guy, but just throwing a name out there.
Look, it's a really good suggestion, honestly. I mean, based on. I was just laughing at Monica's comment. But yeah, based on what I've seen, and he is an explosive offensive coach. So yeah, I would give him a look. Biff Poggi, Kyle's favorite.
He is.
He wore a polo yesterday. Looked like a decent dressed human being. He goes to Nebraska and wins.
Yep.
Napier will be at UAB next year. You know what, Paige? That might not be a bad fit all the way around. But
Trent Dilfer to the Florida Gators.
Oh my God!
But Biff,
just kidding, people.
But Biff yesterday with the win at Nebraska is the interim head coach at Michigan because I guess their head coach is suspended.
Yeah.
I think that's just more. He happened to inherit a really good team more than anything he did. He just didn't screw it up. But I did think it was funny at the end of the game. They asked him how he was going to celebrate. He said he was going to go home and eat a pint of coffee, ice cream, smoke a cigar, then probably go to the hospital.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah.
Hey, I think that Oklahoma is probably for the first time ever is sad that Oklahoma State lost yesterday because I have a feeling that the next coach of Oklahoma State is going to be Oklahoma's OC, Ben Arbuckle. It just fits. It just fits too well.
What about John Arbuckle? Garfield. Stevie and Dave got it.
I love Garfield. Yeah, I really love Garfield. Let's see. Oh, here. What about this? Lane Kiffin or USF coach Alec Grolich for the Florida job.
Yeah, Ole Miss has got more money than Florida.
Oh, why would? I know it. And here's
Florida's historically better, man, but Ole Miss has got more money than God.
That's what I was going to say, Matt. One of the things I've heard from Florida fans, and I want to get your take because you're closer to the program than obviously I am. But they talk about, like what you were talking about, the 5-star recruits. But they said that the facilities aren't as good as they should be, being that they are Florida. That's Florida people, talking to me over the years. And I went down there in '95. One of my best friends has his law degree from there, and I spent spring break. Gainesville is a great town, so it's not like it's a bad town. It's a great college town. And man, I went by the swamp several times, and that place is massive. Like I hate that I didn't go to the 2015 game, but anyway, Is that true about Florida? Not like, in other words, spending money, not having money to
not what I've seen. I mean, I know they just did some upgrades, and like I was there last year, and those facilities are awesome. Plus, they have the Jordan brand. Like they have the Jumpman.
Yeah.
One of 2 or 3 schools that have that. So, they have it all, man. Like they have everything in place. They just can't play offense. They just can't play offense for whatever reason. So,
yep.
All right, guys. Is everyone about ready to wrap it up here? Or?
Yeah. Any last thoughts?
I have a last thought. Since Monica's still listening, I didn't, I wasn't sure she was going to hang around, but since she has, I'm going to give her the 7 false starts. We had a 3rd and 9 in the first quarter, and then we had a 1st and 10, a 3rd and 9, a 1st and 10, a 2nd and 7, a 1st and goal from the 5, and a 3rd and 11. So
they were all mostly 1st down or 3rd down.
Yeah,
so
that is brutal.
Like 11. I think
there's your game. The picks and those penalties. That's your ball game right there.
Yeah, I think it was Johnny. Wasn't it 11 penalties for 70 yards? They had more penalties.
76. Yeah.
6. They had more penalty yards than we did. But
they can overcome it. We can't.
Right. Where those penalties happen is the problem. Is that so? That's why you can't always look at a box score, because you don't know when those penalties and things happen.
The penalties and picks is there you go. That's how we lost the game. And
no, we had more first downs, 24-20.
Yeah.
And
I mean, the total yardage was, they had 418, we had 404. It was I think Kyle nailed it earlier. The 2 turnovers, that was a dagger.
Yep.
Right in the heart. Yep. All right, guys. Thank you to everybody. We appreciate each and every one of us, and appreciate every one of you. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm really tired.
We do appreciate each and every one of us.
I appreciate myself.
I do too.
I appreciate myself at least once a day.
Wow. That is.
Well, here comes the ECU again.
Well, there goes our.
I don't know. I just said I appreciate. I mean, I do something for myself, like maybe have a piece of chocolate or something. I don't know what's wrong with y'all.
Cigars.
Kyle, how do you say chocolate? How do you say chocolate? Chocolate? Did you say chocolate?
Chocolate. It's chocolate. What do you say?
Come on, fellas.
Chocolate. Stevie, you said chocolate. JR, how do you say it?
Chocolate.
Chocolate.
Chocolate. Dave, let's hear you say it.
Chocolate.
Matt, how do you say it?
It's chocolate.
Y'all, you're the weird chocolate. So you like a little you like a little chalk? You eat chalk, do you?
What?
Chocolate.
I like a little chocolate.
Do you ever take chocolate and write on a chalkboard?
In Chocowinity?
Exactly.
Wow.
Or Kyle would love it in Murfreesboro.
There you go. Stevie just hit us with the Murfreesboro. All
right. Well, if you guys need anything, obviously people are talking.
Hey, we got to tie all this together. Hold on, we're getting the hell out of here. I'm sitting here talking about we need to keep the show shorter because people complain that I'm sitting there rambling. So we're going to tie all this together. There's a really good Italian restaurant, Matt, in Murfreesboro, and you can get some chocolate there.
All right, that sounds good. Maybe get some mozzarella. Can I get some mozzarella?
What's the name of that place, Stevie? We'll give them a free plug.
Napoli's.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. We ate dinner there back in December. It was surprisingly really good Italian from Murfreesboro, North Carolina.
Murfreesboro.
Hey, hold on a minute, Kyle. We got in a chat group, Axel's accusing, he said Cindy equals Kyle. He's saying that you are.
That's not me, Axel. That's not me. Cindy, I appreciate the love. I don't know who Cindy is. I'd like to know who Cindy is. She gives me so much love. I'm really starting to wonder if it's a plant. Not a plant as in like a shrub, but a plant as in like somebody just messing with me, going over the top. But I do appreciate.
Cindy wants to marry Kyle. That's what I
want.
No, she's already married.
She is. I don't know Cindy personally, but I appreciate the support from Cindy. And Cindy is not me. I'm not putting myself over. But
hey, hold on, guys.
Appreciate the kind of words, Cindy.
One more last minute comment. We're getting some quality comments here at the end, and I meant to bring this up. Mike Wright, 0. I didn't see him out there at all. Are we going to see him next week? What's the deal?
I mentioned earlier in the show that I mentioned earlier in the show that we're not utilizing our talent right, and mentioned Mike Wright specifically that him not being on the field last night's insane.
Yeah. I said that in sometime in the first half, and before all that went down, that like I was asking people, have you seen Mike Wright? And I just asked that one time, but yeah, he's one of the best guys. We not only talented on the field, but he's one of the best guys, well spoken, all that. So you're rooting hard for a guy that he could have gone anywhere and he came to us.
Hell, put him in the goal line. You know, if BYU would have expected him to run and run a little jump pass with him.
No
Touchdown.
doubt. All right. We good now? Everybody?
Yeah, we're good. Let's wrap it up.
I'm good.
All right.
Hey, I'm just gonna say this, and just the 7th time I said I'm gonna shut up tonight.
One more thing.
At least the 7th. Look, I'm staying the course.
Though.
I'm staying the course. I do look. I am a believer in Blake Harrell. I think we have the right head coach. I'm not down on Blake in any way. Last night certainly didn't go as anybody expected, but I think we need to fix these penalties. And look, as far as the academies go, show me an ECU team can go out and beat an Army or a Navy. We can do it, but we've got to clean up the mistakes. So yeah. I'm hoping we can turn the tide this Thursday. And that's it. I'm shutting up.
We haven't beat a service academy since 2002. I believe that would have been Army.
No, that's way incorrect. We beat Navy twice in Annapolis. Well, we beat them most recently in 21.
And
Dowdy-Ficklen. Yes, that's correct. You didn't say that. Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Yeah. So we need to get a lot of people there, as Philip says, and we'll make this the last comment. Whoever can make it.
It was actually 03. It was actually 03.
03? Okay.
It was 03, well, 03 or 04. It was when JT was here the last time we beat an academy in Greenville.
Oh, yeah, that was 04 because that was one of the 2 wins, right?
Yeah.
Army?
Yeah, it was. Yep.
You're right. Okay. All right. Whoever can make it to the game this Thursday, please come. We need all the people we can get. We're starting conference play. Let's go Pirates. And I couldn't say any better. Guys, thank you so much. Appreciate y'all. We'll be back on the air on Wednesday for our Pirate preview with, of course, Army. And then, of course, the game on Thursday night. We'll get out of here. Enjoy your week. We'll see you back Wednesday night. Go Pirates.
You're watching The Sports Objective, the podcast for Pirates.